For decades, we've kind of treated farming like a battlefield, right? Waging this endless chemical war on pests. But that war, well, it's had some serious blowback, creating superbugs and damaging the very ecosystems we rely on. So, what if there's a better way? Today, we're diving into a pretty revolutionary shift in agriculture, moving from that chemical arms race to a smart, science-based partnership with nature itself.
Here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll dig into the new philosophy. Then, we'll build what we're calling the pyramid's foundation. After that, we'll talk about harnessing nature's own army. We'll look at the last resort option at the very top, and finally, we'll zoom out to see how we can scale this whole revolution for a healthier future.
All right, first up, this is so much more than just a new farming technique. It's a whole new way of thinking. Instead of seeing the farm as this constant battlefield, we're learning to see it as this incredibly complex ecosystem that we can actually partner with.
And this table just lays it out perfectly. The old way was all about a war on pests. The goal? Total eradication. But that led to this vicious cycle of chemical dependency that just wiped out everything, including the good guys. The new way? It's all about smart economic management, using a science-based framework to work with the ecosystem and, crucially, protect our pollinators.
This whole approach has a name: Integrated Pest and Pollinator Management, or IPPM for short. Now, here's the key takeaway. We're not aiming for the total annihilation of every single pest. The real goal is just to keep their numbers below a level where they actually cause economic damage, all while protecting the beneficial insects, the bees, the wasps, the predators that are, our allies out there in the field.
So, you might be wondering, okay, that sounds great, but how does it actually work in practice? Well, the foundation of IPM is built on two super simple but really powerful ideas: prevention and observation. And this is where the real magic happens, long before a single drop of pesticide is even on the table.
And this isn't about guesswork. It's a completely data-driven process. Farmers are out there, actively monitoring their fields, using tools like traps to really understand the risk. Then, and this is important, they choose the least disruptive option first. You only escalate to more targeted interventions if it's absolutely necessary. Think of it like a ladder of intervention, and chemicals are the very, very last rung.
This brings us to a key concept: the economic threshold. It's basically the scientific trigger for taking action. It's that specific point where the cost of the pest damage is going to be more than what it costs to control the pest. So for example, if a farmer knows a certain number of aphids will cut their yield by $100, but it only costs $50 to control them, boom, they've hit the economic threshold. This simple calculation prevents millions of tons of unnecessary spraying every year. And the tools at this foundational level, they're often brilliantly simple and super low cost. Farmers can plant trap crops, like putting mustard around a cabbage patch to lure the pests away. They can use mulch to keep weeds down and build up healthy soil, or they can use simple physical barriers. These are all knowledge-based tools, not chemical ones, and they're totally accessible to farmers of any scale.
But does this approach actually work in the real world? Well, the results are absolutely astounding. In South Asia, farmer field schools have taught these exact techniques, and it's led to a massive 40 to 70% reduction in insecticide use. And here's the best part: they did it without losing any yield. That is a huge win for farmers' wallets and for the planet.
Okay, so with that strong foundation of prevention and observation in place, we can move up the pyramid to the next level, which is all about actively recruiting allies. This is where we learn to harness nature's own security force.
So, who are these allies? Let's meet nature's standing army. And these aren't creatures we have to engineer in a lab or anything. Most of them are already out there in our fields, just waiting for the right conditions to thrive and, well, go to work for us.
This army has three main divisions. You've got your predators, like ladybirds. Their larvae are just aphid-eating machines. Then you have the specialists, like parasitic wasps, which act like these tiny, targeted smart bombs, laying their eggs right inside pests like caterpillars. And finally, you have microbial allies, like fungi that can infect and kill pests just by touching them, all without any neurotoxins.
So how do farmers actually work with this army of allies? Well, there are three key strategies. Conservation is all about protecting the good guys you already have by giving them a safe place to live and not using harmful sprays. Augmentation is like calling in reinforcements, releasing lab-reared helpers to boost the numbers. And inoculation involves applying those helpful microbes directly to the soil right where they're needed most.
So we've built a strong foundation with prevention and observation, and we've harnessed the power of nature's army. It's only now that we've reached the very, very top of our pyramid, the last resort option. And trust me, It's the smallest part of the pyramid for a really good reason. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? Chemical intervention is a last resort, not a foundation. In this new model, chemicals are not the foundation of your strategy. They're the carefully considered last resort, something you only use when all the other options have been tried and exhausted. And even when chemicals are necessary, we are not talking about the old broad-spectrum pesticides that just kill everything in their path. The tools at the top of the pyramid are precise. They are like scalpels, not sledgehammers. They're often botanical, like neem, or biological, like Bt toxins that only target specific pests. They break down quickly, and they're designed to have low toxicity for our crucial pollinators.
Okay, we've seen how IPM can totally transform a single farm. But how do we take this from a niche practice to a global standard? Let's zoom out and look at what it's really gonna take to scale this revolution.
A global shift really rests on three big pillars. First, we need supportive policies that stop subsidizing chemical dependency and start investing in biocontrols and ecological training. Second, it's about people, empowering farming communities with the knowledge and resources they actually need. And third, the market has a huge role to play, with certifications that reward farmers for growing safer, healthier food. Ultimately, all of this fits into a bigger, beautiful picture called the One Health Framework. It's this simple but really profound idea that the health of our soil, our food, our climate, and our own bodies are all deeply interconnected. They aren't separate things. And IPM is just a powerful example of this idea in action, showing us how we can work with nature to create a healthier future for everyone.
You know, this entire approach is really about a fundamental shift in our mindset from fighting against nature to partnering with it. And it begs a really big question. If we can reimagine something as fundamental as farming to be a partnership, what other complex challenges could we solve just by changing our perspective? What other wars are we fighting that could actually be transformed into collaborations?